Alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Sometimes we repeat actions that we've done in the past, and we know that these are things we shouldn't do, yet we do them. This is what's known as addiction. The mind creates scenarios that puts you in situations where you repeat previous encounters that you've had in the past. Most of these have to do with individually what it is that each of us is most attracted to. According to my Sheikh Muhammad Rahim Bawa Muhaiyaddeen, the three main culprits are lust, land, and money. But there are many, many more. It depends upon each of our own inclinations and each of our own cultural backgrounds and our history. Now, many men and women take the position when they become of age and they're following a spiritual path that they wish to remove themselves from that which brought them into addiction. They wish to remove themselves from the things that they repeat over and over. So your consciousness could be transcendent, and then all of a sudden your consciousness is focused on something low, and you give yourself into that thing that's low. And that's why we need to be constantly aware of our thought process and where we're going. And we also need to be able to remove from our surroundings those things that influence us to fall from transcendence, those things that take us over or our mind has such a connection to that once we put it in play, once we allow ourselves to get near it, our mind attaches to it and holds on to it and then manifests the qualities that are inappropriate for us. Of course, we all know that addictions are not just mental, they're also physical. Alcohol, drugs, eating, those kinds of things. So people who are tempted by alcohol try to take alcohol out of their houses. Well, we have an internal house and an external house. So we have to clean both houses. We have to clean the external house and we have to clean the internal house. Now, Allah created us out of His love, His kindness, and His wish to be known. So our purpose by way of creation was to come to know Allah. Now, Allah is without form, without physical substance, and is beyond our ability to comprehend. But when He created us, He manifested us out of himself. He brought us into being out of himself. In reality, we understand that La ilaha illallahu means there is no God but God, and only God exists. I do not exist, only God exists. So we exist as manifestations, not God, but manifestations by way of his creation. And our purpose is to become incorporated into that point prior to manifestation. So there is a part of us that understands that transcendence is beyond manifestation. But there's a part of us that is manifest. We have been created. So we are elemental, and we have all of the difficulties that elements have. And one of the things that elements have is they can be magnetized towards things. Now, metal and magnets are obvious examples of manifestations being able to be pulled and pushed in certain directions because of their nature. A magnet will pull metal, or if you do it in the opposite pole, it will push metal. But these are not the only magnetisms in the world. Depending on our own inclinations, when we fall from transcendence, we become subject to the magnetisms in this world. And some of the magnetisms that we become subject to begin with arrogance. Arrogance is something that our mind is always ready to proclaim. And in essence, that proclamation is, I am capable, and I do, and I am in charge, and I am being either praised or blamed, and I am reacting to all that. Now, all of us are tied into that. All of us are magnetized to that. And until we leave our magnetism to that arrogance, which brings upon us all of the problems that arrogance entails, which is pride, which is ego, which is self-sustaining needs, which is the need for power, we are constantly going to become pulled down from transcendence into the lower self. It can't be helped. Arrogance pulls us away from La ilaha illallah. Arrogance pulls us away from I do not exist. Arrogance is the opposite of I do not exist. And as long as we live in the world of I exist, I'm important, I have to be listened to, my will has to be obeyed, we stay in the magnetic pull of the manifestation that Allah created, as opposed to the essence that is beyond the manifestation. Dat is the Arabic word for essence. And Allah's dat, his essence, is without form. But In this world, there is form everywhere, and we live in this world of form, and our struggle is overcoming the susceptibility that form has to other form, the inclination that form has to other form, the attachment that form has to other form, the magnetisms that form has to other form, the intricacies that come about through the drama of form interacting with form. Think about it. All the drama in this world is caused because of our needs in form, because of our needs to control, because of our needs to get our way, because of our needs to push and pull form into certain directions. If we could learn to release ourselves from the need to do those things, we would release ourselves from our addictions, and our addictions to form, our addictions to needing form to satisfy parts of our imagination. Now, it needs to be understood clearly that if we believe that Allah is all that exists, we are all temporary manifestations coming from the dot, the essence of reality, the essence of reality being Allah. And we need to understand that all of creation came from Allah, and everything within creation is of Allah. So if there is but Allah, then everything that we see and hear is Allah. But we veil that from ourselves, and because our mind deals with fundamental elemental things as opposed to transcendence, we attach ourselves not to the dot, the essence, but to the manifest. And in attaching ourselves to the manifest, we create all our problems. We have fallen in love with the creation as opposed to the creator. We have fallen in love with that which the creator has made as opposed to the one who made it. Our loyalty and our love has to go to the creator. We have to understand that the manifest will disappear, and falling in love with the elemental creation is like falling in love with a bubble that you blow. You blow a bunch of bubbles and imagine falling in love with them. Imagine how quickly you're going to be disappointed and how quickly you're going to be heartbroken. And you're going to continue to blow bubbles in a never-ending quest to have bubbles that you can love. And as soon as you blow them, they'll disappear again and again and again. And you'll be constantly disappointed. The difference is that most manifestations, most elemental composites last longer than bubbles. So we think they are real, and our imagination gives them a greater sense of reality than we give to bubbles. But in truth, there is no greater sense of reality to them than there is in bubbles. They're all going to explode and disappear, but our mind holds them in place as if they were real, and our mind gives them the form and that reality. We need to be able to break that spell. And it's a spell that we're under. There's no question about it. The word for it is torpor. We're under a torpor that which we look like is real. We're under a torpor that our imagination is real. It's like smoking opium. It creates a reality for you. Now, opium smokers know that hallucination that the opium creates is not real. But we believe that as long as we're not taking drugs, what we see is real. But we are under the influence of a drug. And that drug is our mind. That drug is our imagination. That drug is our magnetism to those other created things and our desire to interact and to have control over all of those created things. That is how our mind works, and that's the play that our mind sets up. But if we are to return to the explanation of reality that we've been given by the sheikhs, and we've been given by the ones that know the truth, they tell us that all of this is very similar to the scene that we see in a movie. It's a projection on a screen, and it's a projection that we're capable of seeing and that we live our life in. So we live our life in this projection of reality, which is a creation from the essence of reality. And the essence of reality is Hak, the real. Hak, the Godhead. Hak, the one alone who exists. Now, it's very difficult for us to wrap ourselves around the fact that none of this that we see, none of this that we hear, none of this that we live our lives in, none of this that we've committed ourselves to and given so much energy to is not real. It's very difficult to take on that kind of an understanding. It's very difficult also to understand that everything that we see and everything that we encounter has an essential nature that goes beyond its manifestation. And that essential nature has to do with Allah. In the Bible, the Old Testament, the Torah, Allah comes to Musa, to Moses. And how does he come to him? Does he come as a big voice in the sky? Does he come to him through clouds? He came to him through a bush, a lowly bush that was burning in the desert. And it was burning without ceasing to be. It just kept burning. It didn't need additional fuel, and the fuel for it never ran out. But it came through a burning bush. And every one of you, I know, knows the story of Moses and the burning bush, and the burning bush talking to him. Now, to me, I interpret that to mean that God is showing that he can be anywhere, and he is anywhere. And that his essence is in everything, and it is beyond knowing and beyond understanding. Last week, after the talk, and I had been talking about these kinds of things, I went into my kitchen and I looked out the window, and there are hydrangeas in the neighbor's yard. Beautiful hydrangeas. And I was looking at them, and they began to vibrate, and they began to have essence, and they began to give off life that I could feel within them. And I understood that these plants have an essential essence that's in them that can be felt. And that essential essence is the same essential essence that runs through everything. And that essence is in everything. And if we are truly aware of that essence being in everything, then as we walk through our life, we can understand that we are walking through Allah with every step that we take, that we are seeing Allah in everything that we look at, that God is not hidden from us. We just can't see him. And we wonder why we can't see him. And it's because we are too engrossed in the manifest to see what is directly behind the manifest. And that is why the prophets were sent, and that's why the ketubs are sent and the saints are sent, so that the essence becomes closer to us through the manifest, so that we can see the essence of things through the manifest, so that we can begin to understand that there are people in this world through whom the manifest displays itself more easily and more clearly and makes evident the fact that the dot, the essence of Allah, is always around. It's just our inability to see it. So for us to be able to see, we need concentrated essence. We need it to sort of become self-evident to us. Then we can become aware. And after it becomes self-evident to us through a holy being, then as we become more sensitive to it, we can see it through everything that's in our lives. We can see it to everything that we touch and everything that we see and everything that we hear. Then we can understand that we're swimming in it, that it is constantly surrounding us and we are constantly within it. But this takes being attuned to it and releasing ourselves from the addictions that we have through our imagination to all of the different manifest things that can control us and that can rip our consciousness from us and make it a slave to those addictions. Now, when we begin to understand that, when we begin to see how that happens within us, and we set the intention that we don't want it to control us anymore, that's when we begin to make progress into entering the state of reality. That's when we begin to make progress into entering that phase of existence that leaves behind imagination and enters into haq, enters into reality. Now, for each of us, The roadblocks to reality are different. For each of us, the roadblocks to reality take on different forms. For each of us, the roadblocks to reality have a lot to do with the way that we were raised, the culture that we were born into, and what we were taught to believe in when we were little. And one of the things for many people that becomes a roadblock to reality is religion. And it's hard to believe that religion can be a roadblock to the truth, but religion has taken on so many different forms and is around for so many different reasons that soon, if you study religions, you'll begin to understand how they become roadblocks. Religions are supposed to be a methodology for bringing yourself closer to the truth, closer to reality. But what's happened is they become a way for in some places, for the government to control people, or for themselves to control people, or a way to gain power over people, or a way to bring about inappropriate behavior because of the addictions of the people who are running the religions. You know, unless people are pure, they are subject to all of those addictions to that which is manifest. And what happens is, as people who are subject to addictions get into power, those addictions are what they continue to play to, and then they take everybody along with them on their addictive path. And only when they free themselves of their addictions will they allow the rest of society to be freed from their addictions. Otherwise, they make it mandatory for you to believe in the way that they believe. The prophets came, and the prophets brought the pure word of God, the pure word of Allah. But then, after the prophets, men came and tried to maintain what the prophet brought. For instance, the prophet said, there is no compulsion in religion, but men want to make their religion the strongest. So what do? They make religion compulsory. And if you don't believe in that religion, then you are subject to the punishment of the state, because it is now, as opposed to non-compulsory, compulsory. There's a big difference between what the prophet brought and what man instituted. And we need to be able to go back to the words of the truth. And that's why every few generations, a Muhaiyaddeen comes along. A Muhaiyaddeen is one who brings life back to the religion, who brings life back to the truth, who brings the truth back to the manifest so that the manifest can enter into reality again after they've lost their way from reality. The flowers, in order to grow, need to be watered. The Muhaiyaddeen is the water that brings life back to the truth. The truth needs to be watered just like a flower needs to be watered. If the truth isn't watered, the truth is going to be abandoned in favor of our addictions to the manifest. It's going to be abandoned in favor of our need to interact with the manifest. So the Muhaiyaddeen comes and tells you that the manifest is not your life. The manifest is not your reason for existence. That which you see with your eyes and hear with your ears and touch with your senses and smell with your nose is not reality. That is illusory and an illusion. What's real is what's behind that. And what's behind that are all of the gracious qualities of the Creator and his essence, his dot. And there is this unity of existence where all things are buttressed, are supported by, are maintained by, are constantly being created by the Creator and kept into space by the Creator. Not for a second is his essence leaving his creation. If his essence left his creation, the creation would disappear. Yet we, for whatever reason, treat the creation as if it was somehow independent of the Creator, an entity outside of the Creator's realm. And it's not, nor can it be. This is an impossibility, yet the world doesn't understand that, and the world doesn't see that. The world doesn't see that everything is held into place by the Creator, and his essence pervades all. His essence is all. But since we can't see his essence, we believe in what we see, and illusion becomes our guide, and illusion becomes our standard, and interreaction with illusion becomes the drama of our life. And in order to alter that, in order to escape from this drama of existence that is wrapped within the manifest illusion of existence, we have to constantly go back to understanding the essential nature of things and constantly putting into place what's real and what's not real. And whatever the mind may tell us as to the reality of what we see and what we hear, we have to be able to internally deny it. What happens is, in this interplay with the manifest, which has a particular span of time, we treat it as if it is the most important thing in our existence. And if it doesn't go the way we expect it to go, all of our life is shattered and falls apart. Somehow, we need to understand and put into play that whatever happens, we're okay. Whatever goes on, we're okay. This bubble is going to burst, whether things turn out the way we want them to or not. This bubble is going to burst. It's just a matter of when. And then we will see the essence. The point is that we should be trying to see that essence now. And that's why the Sufis say to die before death is the Sufi way of life. So to understand what the truth is now, before our bodies are taken for us, is our path. And to do this, we can't give our allegiance to the manifest. We can only give our allegiance to Allah. And that's why we say that we have no God before you. We have no one we depend on before you. We look to no other one for salvation other than you. We look nowhere for aid other than to you. We are surrendered to your essence. We are not surrendered to your creation. We are surrendered to your reality. We are not surrendered to your creation. We don't try to make our way in this world by amassing portions of your creation. We are done with what is created, and we are focused, centered, and intended on you alone. The great Saint Rabia said, I am not looking forward to heaven, and I don't fear hell. I only want Allah. She made a very broad statement that her interest was the dot. Her interest was the essence. To her, reality was all that was important, and she wanted it clearly understood that everything other than that reality was not what was going to satisfy her or to bring her to the state of peace and the state of understanding. She wanted to know the essence of things. And that's what we want to know. We want to know the essence of things. We want to be integrated with the essence of things. We want to be able to not be pushed and pulled and tossed and turned by the hurricanes and the tornadoes and the tsunamis of the drama of the world. We want to be relieved of these things. And the way we become relieved of these things is not believing in their power, not believing in the fact that they control us. By giving up our needs and our desires and becoming satisfied with that which we have and the situation that we're in. Now, this all becomes complicated because as we live in this world and we have families, we have responsibilities. And as we have responsibilities, there are things that we need to do in order to fulfill those responsibilities. We have to take care of our families. We have to take care of our wives. We have to take care of our husbands. We have to take care of our children. We have to take care of our situations. Now, can we do all of these things? Can we do all of these duties and do them to the best of our ability, but not be attached to the results, not be attached to if things go the way we imagine they should go? So we need to integrate into ourselves the ability to do things, get things done, take care of our responsibilities, and at the same time, do it without the imagination of purported outcomes, without the imagination of the way things have to be for us to be happy, for the way things have to be in order for perfection to occur. In reality, perfection exists at all times. The problem is our inability to see perfection. But if we let go of trying to imagine perfection, if we let go of trying to understand perfection, if we just let go of everything, if we surrender our mind, if we surrender our thought process, and we get to the point where we can just feel, we will feel perfection. We need to let go of all of the things that stand in our way between ourselves and reality. All of the ideas that we have, all of the notions that we have, all of the needs that we have, all of the desires that we have, everything needs to be surrendered. Allah is just. He expects the same thing from the king as he does from the beggar. He expects everything. Now, there will come a time when we will give everything up. Now, the question is, are we going to hold on until the last microsecond, or are we going to be able to give it up now? We all have to ask ourselves these questions. Each of us has to be able to look at our situation and look at it with brutal honesty and understand what it is that we are doing to try and manipulate the system to make things come our way. You know, there's not a lot of respect given to clever people. Clever is not godly. God doesn't reward cleverness. God rewards godliness. God is looking for us to be able to do things in the appropriate way, not the clever way. So let's become appropriate. Let us do things the way they're supposed to be done. Ya Allah, bring about within us a cleansing of all that which tries to manipulate the system to make it work in our favor. Allah, put within us a cleansing that releases us from all of the arrogance that believes that it can do without your aid, that believes that it is the doer. Allah, take this arrogance from us. Let us surrender to you and know that you are alone, the creator and the doer of all things within this manifestation. And that we will follow your will within this manifestation and do what it is that you want us to do. And Allah, put into our hearts the directions implicitly as to what we should do. Allow us to feel and to understand the true nature of correct and appropriate action, and allow us to know truth. Allow us to know justice. Allow us to intuit that which is your desire and your will, and release us from our desires and our needs so we are free to worship you and to know you and to know reality, because there is no greater gift in existence than to know you. There is no greater treasure in existence than to know you. And this is the treasure that we are all looking for. Bring this about for each of us, Allah. Ameen, ameen. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.